Time now for a look back at the last week in the craft beer industry. Pour a cold one and sit back for an all-new episode of Pints and Quarts, presented by Craft Beer Nation.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pints and Quarts, a show presented by Craft Beer Nation. We are here on another Thursday night, back to our regularly scheduled 9:30 live time. And we are here without guest, sans special guest this week, but we've got a panel of intelligent, funny, and enlightened people here. We've got Lola Laracy, Randy Gardner Jr., Charles Dunkley, and Gil Mello, and myself, your host, Matt Miller. So, it is October 16th, so we are making our way towards Halloween here pretty quick, and I think we all kind of got shaken up a little bit by the news, well, not really shaken up, but interested and intrigued, right, Lola? Intrigued by the news that came out of Boston today. I guess it came out 2 days ago, but in the middle of the night, the Pretty Things brewer, owner, co-founder, Dan Paquette, got a little crazy on Twitter, and started dropping some accusations which were completely founded. I believe everybody who's read them says, yep, that goes on all the time. But he leveled some accusations at the industry on how people pay to play. And distributors and breweries will buy tap lines in beer establishments, craft beer establishments, in an effort to keep their terrible beers selling. So I guess it's everybody's going to buy advertising, and I think they've found ways to do some cash envelopes and do things that are illegal and off the level because they want to be able to keep their beer in front of people. I have certainly been to places where I thought, why in all of God's name are those 5 beers on tap, and not this, or this from this area? And now I think we're probably seeing behind the curtain a little bit on this. What kind of thoughts do you guys have?
Well,
I mean, you were just in Boston over the weekend,
yeah, I was,
right?
And I had my first Pretty Things beer this weekend. I had the St. Bottle-off's Town, which is a brown ale, which is actually pretty good. But anyway, I mean, I don't think that it should be fair for people to be able to pay for tap lines. I mean, I understand it's a business and you end up doing what works, but your tap line should be dictated by your customers. If it's a beer that's going to move and your customers want it, then that's the beer that should go on your tap lines. If if you have a garbage product and you're paying for tap lines and it just sits there, shame on the proprietor for allowing you to have a tap line there with a subpar product. I mean, in my opinion, it seems like it would do more harm than good to the proprietor because they're stuck with this beer that they aren't moving. But I mean, who knows? Maybe they're making up the difference in what the.
Well, but you have to remember that a large portion of the market drinks crappy beer. So and maybe he's making more profit than they would be selling beer. I don't know.
I don't know a whole lot about the story. Was he accusing like BMC of buying tap lines, or?
Well, he didn't want to give anything specific when it came to breweries and distributors. But it was, and I believe this probably came to light because I didn't read all of the tweets, and some of you guys out there maybe make comments as well. But I think it was explained to him that, well, I can't put you on tap in here unless you buy one of these lines from me.
Yeah.
So
as I understood, I read the tweets, and as understood is like he was talking about it's just a common practice. It's just acceptable. It's an illegal thing, but that nobody just do anything about it. It's just something that everybody does, and he's pissed off about it.
I love your beer, Dan. You make great beer, but for me to put it on tap, what are you going to do for me? I got kids to put through college, and and somebody else is going to give me more money for this line, so you need to meet it or beat it. So, and it really, part of me is disappointed in that practice, but really, is anybody surprised in a free market society where regulation is fast and loose? Is that it's a free market society, right? So is that you're gonna pay the most? The little guy is gonna lose in this situation every time, though, because they don't have the resources that Bud Miller Coors does.
Yeah.
Well, I don't go to those, mainstream type places. I don't go to the Wings and Things type places. My boyfriend does because that's where they play the football games, whatever they are.
Well,
I don't. So.
yeah, and actually, the wings and things. When I was in college, 20 some years ago, let's leave it at that. There was a place in Ohio and in Western Pennsylvania called BW3's, which is now rebuilt and rebranded as Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
They're all over the place, and they're kind of a disappointing.
that place.
Yeah, they're kind of a disappointing franchise now. But then they were kind of cool and collegey, and I remember going to Columbus, Ohio, and they had like 50 taps there, and they would every month or periodically, they would have a tap count, and the 5 fewest selling beers would come off. So that was how they changed their tap rail up. Was, if it's selling, we're going to keep it on. So if you like something, you better come in and buy it. Otherwise, it could not be here the next time you come in.
Makes sense.
And of course,
so what's the difference? What's the difference between this and like you go to like an Applebee's or any type of restaurant like that who's going to have every Sam Adams seasonal throughout the year? Does Sam Adams pay for that tap line, or is that just the corporation and the two companies make just a commercial deal together to sell product? Or
I don't have the exact answer to that, but I think that's more a function of them trying to appeal to a bigger craft beer audience. Like we don't go to Applebee's to drink craft beer.
Yeah.
But there's some people
I don't know how it works for other states, but I read on the link they had for Boston area or for Massachusetts, it's illegal for you to give any gift money or whatever in order to get your product forward. But I don't know how you deal with that. That's the problem. I mean, as you're saying about Applebee's and those places, everything is kind of a marriage, right? All the products they sell and everything. How do you fix that kind of problem?
we kind of went down this road a few months ago on another one of our shows. I can't remember where it was, but somebody said they talked to someone in a Buffalo Wild Wings and said, "Why don't you have the good stuff on tap?" And they said, "Well, so many, if they've got 20 taps, 15 of them are dictated by corporate."
Yeah, that was Boris.
Well, that's right. It was Boris. Yeah. So they don't get to choose what's on 15 of them. So your sales guys, your corporate guys are making decisions based on either mathematics of what they think will sell, or more likely mathematics on how much beer distributor B is going to send to restaurant A.
And that might be the kickback.
Yeah, and I believe last year. Yeah, and last year, Buffalo Wild Wing did start a policy of making sure that they have at least a couple of taps put aside for local beers in that region to try to appeal to the growing craft beer community.
Yeah. Well,
now we're assuming about the brewers doing that. I'm wondering, like, if a lot of this happens on the distributor side. Like here, I kind of feel that a lot of the bottle shops that I frequent have this pressure of, they have a lot of crappy beer, and I ask, are you really selling this? And the owner just give you that look like, I don't want to comment on it. But I feel like the distributors also kind of pressure people of buying anything they have it so they can get the good stuff as well, which is just a different way to do the same thing.
Right. If you haven't bought 40 cases of my year-round stuff, you're not going to get my seasonal that everybody's clamoring over. And I hate to say Founders, because the case that I specifically know was, if you don't buy this much of our year-round stuff, then we're not going to give you a case of KBS to sell. So, or we're not going to sell you a KBS to resell. So, I mean, that's a big part of it too, and that kind of leverage is probably legal, right? Targets are not being met, so we don't have to give you everything you want.
Well, it's a difference between, I think, that type of target coming from the brewer wanting, wanting to push their product versus the proprietor selling the tap line. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah, and are they selling that tap line to the distributor or to the brewery? In those situations. So really,
we as consumer too. We don't exercise the power we have. To buy it forward. We just sometimes we say, "Oh, I'm here already. I order food, so I might just order that."
I'll just take a Yuengling, whatever.
Right. Yeah, because we don't make all of our decisions based on who has the good beer. We usually make our decisions on what food my wife wants to eat.
And where my friend wants to have the birthday party, because our birthday is one day apart, and she usually decides, maybe this time I should decide.
Yeah, I remember Lee Allison telling a story that he walked away in a restaurant we're not going to name when he asked, "What's your craft beer on tap?" And they gave them a list, and he said, "No, that was craft beer." He said, "Well, that's all we have."
Yeah,
So
I've
he
walked
walked
out of
away.
restaurants too.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll usually order wine because I like wine too. So if they don't have good beer, I'm like, I'm drinking wine. Screw that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've beat this discussion down. I think it's a crappy practice that hopefully this shining this spotlight on it will get a little attention and I hate to say regulate, but I'd like the little guys to have a chance. So we talked a little bit. We had a story from a couple of weeks ago about one brewery expanding, and now there's another one. So Randy, what have you got there?
So yeah, from our we found this article at citizentimes.com, and this one talks about Cigar City out of Tampa, Florida, looking to expand, and right now they're looking into Western North Carolina, which seems to be a popular spot with Sierra Nevada and New Belgium and Oscar Blues all going around the Asheville area. That's one of the spots that Cigar City is looking to expand to, and the other location is in the upstate of South Carolina. So for those who aren't familiar, that's like in the Greenville, Spartanburg, like the northwestern part of South Carolina. And they have a few breweries there already, but that would be awesome if they moved to South Carolina. I'm just a little bit of a homer there. But anyway, they're looking to build a 50-barrel brew house. Wherever it is that they're going to expand to. And the interesting part is, like, right now Cigar City doesn't distribute to either one of those states. So they're building this brewery there maybe because of what the area represents, but that particular brewery is kind of going to be like complimentary of the brewery down in Tampa. So I don't know how big I don't remember how big their brew house is down in Tampa, but the 50-barrel brew house that they're looking to build is similar in size. So I don't know if it's bigger, smaller, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't believe it was much bigger than a 25.
Oh, really?
That Wayne was
I think the brewery is supposed to be about the same size what they have now, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe they've got a bigger system there.
Yeah. So either way, that bodes good news for people for our craft beer friends in North Carolina and South Carolina, because chances are if they're going to be brewing beer there, then they're probably going to be distributing beer there. So I imagine
for sure
not only North Carolina and South Carolina, but maybe even Tennessee. Who knows? I don't know if they distribute to Georgia. I'm sure they do, but maybe Georgia will see more of their offerings and stuff like that. So that's and in Virginia. So that's an interesting bit of expansion, especially considering Cigar City is kind of small, relatively speaking. They're a really small brewery, and I guess that speaks for itself, considering they want to open up a 50-barrel brew house in comparison to our other expansion that we wanted to talk about, which is Founders.
Before you go, did they mention any particular cities they're looking at?
Who, Cigar City?
Yeah.
Well, they said Western North Carolina, and that's basically the Asheville area, because the article talks about those three breweries, Oscar Blues, New Belgium, and Sierra Nevada, being in the area. All those guys are around the Asheville area. So it would be somewhere around there for Cigar City and somewhere in the upstate of South Carolina. So, it could be Travelers Rest, it could be Greenville, it could be Spartanburg, it could be Malden, wherever. A bunch of these cities that a lot of people probably have never heard of. But as I was about to mention just now, Founders is looking to expand on their current facility. They're gonna expand. They're gonna do it in two phases, right? The first one's gonna be approximately 37,000 square feet that they're gonna add on to their current brew house for new production equipment, and that's gonna include a new 300-barrel brew house and fermentation tanks, as well as additional offices. And then the second phase is going to be 20,000 square feet, which is going to be used for more fermenting space and for packaging equipment. So all in all, they're looking, after both phases are completed, they're looking at a 57,000 square foot increase in their current at their current facility. And after both phases are complete, their footprint is going to have a 900,000 barrel capacity. Now, I believe 900,000 barrels. That's right about where Stone is right now. So that should probably pretty much catapult Founders up there onto the top 10 biggest breweries in the country, but they won't be putting out 900,000 barrels immediately after this done. They're gonna get to that point incrementally. So at the end of this year, they would have shipped 200,000 barrels, and then at the end of 2015, they want to bump that up 100,000 barrels. So they'll be producing 300,000 barrels at the end of that time. And with this addition comes 72 new jobs over 3 years, ranging from managerial jobs to operations to sales to people who are just working the bottle lines, probably need more maintenance techs and stuff like that. So, and the good thing about this is I think that Founders is making it a point to recognize the craft beer industry as a whole for the reason of their expansion. In a quote, Mike Stevens, who's a co-founder, who said the focus of this expansion is to increase the capacity of our production facility to brew more beer right here in Grand Rapids. Because of increasing demand from the growing beer enthusiast community, we aren't able to fill orders right now. We're expanded because we're committed to the city, the state, and the craft beer community. It would have been awesome if he had said to Craft Beer Nation, but
sorry, I didn't.
No, you're fine,
Raymond
Joe.
Randy.
It's funny how we talk. I mean, we just interviewed 6 Point Brewery last week, and we talk about Stone, and we talk about some other Cigar City, like how the different approaches different breweries have. It shows how big, but at the same time how small the market is. That you can still have that owner kind of a vision decision on it.
Yeah, it's not a decision that was dictated by some board of directors or anything like that. This is the owner's vision saying we want to stay dedicated to our city, to our state, and to the people who've helped make us successful. Not just like the people of Michigan who buy Founders beer, but the whole craft beer community. I think that's fantastic for craft beer.
I wonder if that's the decision of Sam Calagione to change his role into the brewery so he could, think more about brewing while somebody else will take care of how do we grow.
Yeah,
the number of stuff.
Every time that we've spoken with brewers, they've always said that like people who own breweries, they say they kind of get caught up in the aspect of being a business owner, operating the facility as opposed to brewing, which was their initial passion. So I can imagine Sam, started out brewing himself. He probably just kind of wanted to get back to his roots, and he had a capable lieutenant behind him who he felt could, assume the role that he once took to allow him to get back to what he loved doing, which is brewing beer. So.
And champion things in the market, going out and being the face of craft beer, which is what he and Greg and those guys are quickly becoming, is the recognizable face of the craft beer movement. So the more attention Sam can give to that, I think all breweries out there are high-fiving each other that he's going to continue to do that.
Yeah,
so I think
it's hard to go to all these. It's hard to go to all those festivals and be the face of your brewery and still effectively run the brewery back home.
Make the decisions and sign the checks, right? So, all right, let's talk a little bit about a story that Lola's got. She had it on the show last week and we didn't get to it, about innovators in the beer industry.
This segues very nicely because you were talking about people who are prominent in craft beer, people who are proponents of craft beer, and apparently these people are. It's from the magazine All About Beer, and in November they're going to have a spread on several people in the craft beer industry. And if you go to their website, allaboutbeer.com, they go ahead and give you the names of who they're going to spotlight, and they also give you about 10 of the write-ups they've already done, because some of these are culled from the last year, some of the spotlights they've already done. And I'm very happy to see how many women. I would say there's at least 10, maybe 12 women here. I'm very happy about that. You see Denise Ratfield from the Pink Boots Society, and Julia Hers from Brewers Association, and apparently she goes on a lot of TV shows to talk about craft beer. They were talking about her being on Good Morning America and NPR, so she's really the face of craft beer, so that's really good. And even a woman from Coors Miller, which generally I would just totally poo-poo all over the place. But I read the article about her, and she just sounds like the most fun woman in the world. Her name is Lisa Zimmer, and she just looks like she'll have a good time no matter what she does. And I won't drink her beer, but I'd love to hang out with her. So if you want to read about some of the innovators in the craft beer world, go to allaboutbeer.com and get their magazine when the November issue comes out.
And the
we
only one
need to remember that brewing is a women thing. Until modern era, until Middle Age, it was after Middle Age when men start brewing. Before Middle Age, it was women only brewing. We somehow stole that, so it's cool to see women back into the brewing.
Well, if we didn't steal the brewing, we stole the credit, I think.
That's true.
Which is pretty much typical for the male evolution there. On that list, I noticed the only folks I think that I've met personally, or we've spoken to personally, somebody can correct me, is Greg Avola. We had him on our SIPA show last summer. He and Tim Mather, who made Untapped, they made the list. So
Yeah.
Well, we had Greg on the show. He was pretty interesting too.
Yeah. He was kind of energetic too. It was a lot of fun having him on.
Yes. Yeah, we ought to try and get him back on the show again sometime.
We
He's familiar with us.
We should go down this list and contact all of them.
We should. And here we go. We're gonna fire off.
But we'll start at the bottom up so they don't know we're just going down the list. We don't want to be too obvious.
Yeah. I don't mind being obvious.
Okay.
It's interesting content, and I like talking to smart people. That's why I have you around.
Yeah.
That wasn't even slightly tongue-in-cheek.
I was taking it literally. Thanks.
No, that's what I mean. I wasn't slightly tongue-in-cheek, and I wasn't being sarcastic.
I thought you were just being sarcastic when you said you weren't being sarcastic.
Yeah, that would be perfect sarcasm. Sarcastic about being sarcastic.
Doug Nolan should go stand in line for me for every release he gets on the channel.
Unfortunately, I don't get to go as many as I'd like to.
Yeah, Doug's got kids too. He knows the pinch. Hey, we're going to talk about the review of the week. We're going to talk, and I have not had this beer. I'm glad Doug came on here because Doug drinks a lot of beers. Maybe he's had this. But a review of the week comes from Kevin Parsons. He posted he writes to his own blog, beefsbrewery.blogspot.com, and he posted this to the Google Plus community here. But he reviews Old Foghorn, Anchor Brewing's barley wine, and I have not had this, so I was interested to see this. I'm sure it's out there in our area. I just never really spend a lot of time looking for this beer, honestly. But man, Anchor makes some really delicious things. Anyway, here's his taste category. Spicy sweet notes of cinnamon, toffee, and rum-soaked raisins dominate the palate. I could probably stop right there. That to me.
Yeah. Thank you for coming out. God bless you. Good night.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Tip your waitress.
Craft Beer Nation.
This is a great after-dinner beer, or even perhaps a mid-afternoon beer, as I can see it going very well with a slice of carrot cake. The malty sweetness cuts through its dry edge and culminates in a beer that is very easy to drink indeed. The taste of the alcohol is still there, but it just serves to give an extra kick, in my opinion. By the end of the bottle, I am smiling and remembering just why this beer has been on my wish list for some time. If I was giving out gold stars, then this would get one for sure. And that's from Kevin Parsons. You can find his beer reviews on beefsbrewery.blogspot.com, or just come to the Google Plus community. I've seen links to most of his blogs up in there. So thanks, Kevin, for writing that, and we'll reshare that this week and get a little more attention to it. We want to go a little into depth on our new release from this week, the Gingerbread Stout, which is probably what the release that Virginians get most excited about, at least this time of year. Hardywood Park Brewery in Richmond, Virginia, which is they will soon become not the largest brewery in Richmond, Virginia. So when Stone builds there, and actually I say that, but Legend is there. They make a lot of beer too. But they have got their release party coming out. They're going to release Gingerbread Stout on November the 8th. And Gil did some research on the background here.
Yeah, I can barely hold myself in the chair. I mean, it's no secret that Gingerbread Stout barrel aged is my favorite beer in the world. I think it's the best beer ever made, for me. So, cheers. Uh,
That's how you really feel,
Yeah.
Gil.
Hey, I think I
no,
recognize that
they're
glass.
only releasing their the barrel age on December 6th, I think. And Pints and Quarts talked with the Hardwood Park, and it was a good thing. They just told us that they increased their production at 400 barrels this year, which I'm very excited about. And just so you know, I don't live in Virginia. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm actually from Brazil, but I live in Pennsylvania. So it's awesome to me just to think about it, that gingerbread coming out. So they told us that the production was increased to 400 barrels, and they'll be selling their normal 750 ml bottles, and they will be cork and cage. I know they moved some of their reserve series, and if you're not familiar with Hardywood Reserve series, what they try to do is brew a beer with some local, like some Virginia product. So in this case, they are using Castlemont. I hope I pronounced that right. Castlemont Farms ginger. They got fresh ginger right off the ground, and they would use a wildflower honey from, I think it's called Bear Farm. I think I got that right. But with the enlarge of the production, they're going to be able to serve all the markets that they are releasing the beer at, like Virginia, D.C., Philadelphia, and as well for their barrel-aged beer. So I'm very excited. And that's why I said Doug Nolan should go in line for me and sleep by the brewery to give me some beer. So this beer, the one they are releasing now, this on the 8th is their original gingerbread stout. It's awesome on its own. It's as much as good as the barrel aged, and it's an imperial milk stout brewed with fresh local ginger and honey. And I have some specs here. It's 9.2% ABV, 55 IBUs, and I'm just looking forward to it. It's one of those beers that says holiday all over it. I've tried different gingerbread stouts, and that beer is just amazing. I mean, you really can get. How many of you had that beer?
That beer is so good. I mean, it really is it's one of those beers when you think of stuff that, you see beers out there called sticky toffee pudding and banana bread. All these beers that, are kind of aimed to have that like specific flavor profile. But when they say gingerbread stout, I mean, it tastes like there's no, get it wrong. I mean, that's what it tastes like. And it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's out there. Look for it. Gingerbread stouts coming out. So on October, and then in December again, the barrel age, awesome beer.
Yeah. That one is also going to get distributed. They said they're going to distribute the barrel aged version as well. It will have less distribution, less cases, or less volume, of course. But if you guys remember last year, we did a story that was the barrel aged gingerbread stout was the one that they dumped on the floor when they had a hose give out. When they had a clamp or something give up on one of their bright tanks.
About a week.
Right.
Wow.
And I don't think many people got that beer at all last year, so this will be a much better year for distribution if they can keep all their clamps tightened down. So
It's still going to be hard to get, though.
it is going to be hard to get for sure, but worth it.
Yeah.
Well, their reserve series, what they're trying to do is like wine have the terroir and the land field. So that's what it's trying to build the Virginia kind of flavor. So
well, Gil, you had their pumpkin saison tonight, and I think I read they're putting that into a rye whiskey barrels, right?
Yeah, they're
doing
launching couple. I mean, it's one of the breweries that's coming with release every week. And this is the Farmhouse Pumpkin, and they are also releasing their rye pumpkin on whiskey barrel, which is
Don't they also do it at rum barrels?
They do a rum pumpkin as well too. Yeah. So yeah, I guess this time of year you can get, and that really is their main market. They do a great IPA. What is I'd say Save the Bay, but it's the Great Return. The Great Return of the James.
Which just came out yesterday on cans. So if you go to the brewery, you can get it really fresh.
And that's a legit IPA.
The Great Return they also did another IPA that was some sort of fundraiser. It may have been something for like breast cancer or something.
Oh, really?
That was really good as well.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it just impressed me. It just impressed me. Like a 3-year-old brewery can come out of such amazing beers. My kudos for Hardywood and
yeah.
looking forward to try their stuff.
Well, yeah, for
All
the
right.
longest time, they only had 1 year-round beer. Everything else was something released every week
Yes.
or every few weekends.
Yeah, and not often enough for me. So yeah, I guess we'll see how trading goes with 400 barrels of gingerbread stout on the market this year. But I'll still drink it and enjoy it. So, all right, other notable releases. Actually, other notable Noda Brewing in Charlotte, North Carolina has got a Monstro Russian Imperial Stout aged on barrels of Pappy Van Winkle. And I love how all the stouts are coming here now. Sly Fox has got a Nihilist barrel-aged Russian Imperial Stout coming. That's a Pennsylvania brewery. Sierra Nevada has got Snowpack 2. You know what? We talked about this. This is coming here now. This has got their coffee stout, the Boomerang IPA. That's the Winter White IPA, right? Oh, maybe that was something else. It's got a porter and a pale ale. That's going to be coming out now through January. Hopping Frog is going to have a King Goza Home.
Another amazing brewery doing really great job recently.
That's a bigger Goza. That's going to be 6% with coriander and sea salt, of course. And then Cassie's got Slayer Dark Double Alt Ale, 7.2% ABV alt ale with chocolate and nugget hops. Firestone Walker Barrel Works is going to have El Gordo American Ale. It's a blend of American wild red ale and a saison with the addition of pumpkin and walnuts aged in an oak barrel. That's a lot of things going on in that beer right there.
I think in the 2 beers, one is 2 years old and the other one is 1 year old.
No
they're
kidding.
putting in the blend.
Yeah, blend them together. The brewery out of Chico, California, has got white chocolate aged in bourbon barrels with cacao nibs and vanilla beans. $30 a bottle coming out today. We talked about the Hardywood Park stuff. Sierra Nevada's got their barrel-aged maple stout, which sounds delicious. Pre-release is coming out on that Saturday. Anybody else here about any releases that are worth mentioning? All right, festivals. Gonna hear the word Oktoberfest in here a good bit again, I would guess. But Beervana Fest is in Cranston, Rhode Island. That's the 17th. Louisville Brew Fest is the 17th. So that is what? Those are all tomorrow, huh? Those are Friday this weekend. Windsor Craft Beer, Windsor, Ontario, is going to have a beer festival on Friday and Saturday. Brews and Blues Festival in Adrian, Michigan, is going to have one on Saturday. Munster Ale Festival in Munster, Idaho, on Friday. Tennessee has got one in Nashville on Friday. Albuquerque Hop Fest. I should have taken a left at Albuquerque, New Mexico, October 20th. That one's coming up on Monday. That's a weird date for a hop fest, but I don't need a reason to drink on Monday. I don't know about you guys. Meeting of the Malts, a celebration of Pennsylvania lagers. Sly Fox, Victory, and Lancaster Brewing are going to have one at Sly Fox Tasting Room on Tuesday, my birthday. That might be a good reason to drink. Austin Beer Week is something's not right here. This is Austin Beer Week in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, Austin, Texas. That's coming up here soon. That's the last week of October. And then a couple of Oktoberfests. Oktoberfest in Port Royal, South Carolina. Where's Port Royal?
That's in Beaufort. That's my hometown.
Is it? All right. Well, they're having an Oktober, like PR Fest.
No idea what that's about.
I don't know. Do they call themselves PR instead of Port Republic?
Oh, yeah, that's right. PR, Port Royal.
That's kind of how they have that in the middle there spelled out.
Okay.
Port Royal.
Richmond's Oktoberfest is coming up this weekend as well. Crosstoberfest, Haley, Idaho, Baltimore in Baltimore, Maryland, Baja Oktoberfest in Tucson, and that's all.
I think we're having an Oktoberfest here.
Really?
In Virginia. Yeah.
All right. Roanoke is going to have one.
It's
And if you go to Roanoke and they don't have a festival, just stop on by Doug's house. He lives at 123 Main Street on the east end of town. Zip code 2478 He has enough. Doug has enough beer in his basement, certainly to serve the first 30
hate
that
goes to Randy Gardner Jr. at Hot.
Yeah, all hate mail goes to. What? No, so that is our show this week. Let's just cut this off before somebody gets into trouble. That really is what we do. Everybody, thanks for tuning in this week. Next week we've got author Sean Lewis, who's written a beer book. So watch for the posts about that. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk with him next week. So until then, find some good friends, get some great beer, and mind your P's and Q's.